Hey Sarthak, why do developers use dark mode?
Because okay, I actually don't know this one.
Because light attracts bugs.
All right, time to get started. So today we're talking about social media in the 2020s. I'm Sarthak. I'm a software engineer.
I'm Soumya, I'm a software engineer.
We should probably do different
Creative
titles
intro?
there.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll put something in the air. It'll at least make it a bit more creative.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're talking about social media today, and I want the conversation to focus actually on social medias after the pandemic or in the 2020s, what it has become now and where it is going according to you and everything.
Yeah.
And to start off, actually, I'm gonna lay it all flat on you. My first question is gonna be the question that is gonna be the crux of this argument. We're gonna debate or argument, whatever you wanna call it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have for the next hour.
Yeah.
Do you think social media is necessary in the first place?
I mean, obviously, we'll get into the pros and cons of it later as the conversation goes along. But I think at the crux of it, it feels nice, right? To like maybe just open an app and see what my friend from the living on the other side of the world, who I don't find time to call usually, is like what she's up to, right? So I think that is obviously a great feeling to have, and then I will not ramble about it. Maybe we'll get into it later. But what about you? What do you think?
I kind of agree. I feel social media personally to me, and I know a lot of people, it has given opportunity to find communities that they will never be able to find in their personal circles. Primarily for me, for example, I am an avid fan of World War II for some reason. I just find the whole history entertaining there.
Yeah.
I have been able to find such a vibrant community on Reddit who is
Yeah.
able to dig up such great photos, articles, everything, and I'm even able to contribute there, right, with the
Yeah.
findings that I do. So I always feel like that part of the internet
Yeah.
and social media in general
Yeah.
is always something that has made me learn more and more, explore more and more,
Yeah.
find these communities. So I always feel that social media has that,
Hmm.
but I do feel it has predatory or bad things also.
Of
Do you
course.
agree on that?
I do, yeah. I do agree on the predatory behaviors. But what do you define as predatory in the first place?
I mean, if you think of it from a business point of view, addictive things, making things addictive,
Yeah.
making things work on dopamine rush,
Yeah.
stuff like that, I'm defining as addictive.
Yeah.
It's kind of up in the air, to be honest. Now that
Hmm.
you've asked me, I'm kind of thinking like, is it actually the case that is this predatory or is this just an addiction? So I'm happy to hear your definition of predatory.
I also think it's like on the same lines. Like I think like with especially things like short form content, right? You know that it is addictive and people are gonna spend time on it, even though there is like so much research backing it now that it is actually harmful to your brain in the long run. It reduces focus time in brains. It can ruin your sleep cycle, right? But even then, if companies are choosing to capitalize on short form content, it does make it a little bit predatory.
Okay, yeah, we'll go into the depths there, but let me bring it a step back. I think we are going
Too fast.
too fast into the
Yeah.
topic. I actually want to explore some parts of it before we go into the depths of it. So when going back to the original question, of whether social media is necessary. So there are multiple forms of social media, right? So for example, the one I mentioned is a text-based social media or a image-sharing social media. I think 2020s are definitely dominated, according to me personally, by video format social media.
Yeah.
Do you think video format social medias have a place in today's world, which is more than just entertainment?
They do. I mean, there are also like a lot of video formats. Like for example, us too, right? We are also a video form
That's
of
true.
content,
Yeah.
right? And it does play a part. I think it's easier to absorb information from like moving images and videos than text based, right? So I do think like videos play a lot of videos have like a more fit place in today's world than text based social media.
Okay.
What about you? Is your opinion the same?
It kind of is. I also feel video-based social media has definitely enhanced the experience of social media in general. You have seen this increase in the amount of information that is flowing from just one post on YouTube or
Yeah.
one post on in our country we don't have TikTok, but we have multiple apps that
Yeah.
simulate it. For
Simulated.
example, Instagram stories.
Hmm.
So there's definitely has been an increase in the amount of information. I have noticed this trend that before pandemic, my friends were very unaware of stuff in general. Okay,
Yeah.
like of course if they're interested in a field they'll know about it, but
Yeah.
if they're not interested in a field, they actually will not hear the news fast enough for them to know that oh something has happened.
Yeah.
But post pandemic we are seeing such a great flow of information,
Exactly.
and I think that can be directly attributed to video based social media because
Yeah.
it's just so easy to
It's
consume.
just so easy to
Yeah.
consume.
An
yeah.
example is recently Gukesh won the fight candidates, right? Now he's going to challenge for the chess championship.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic, this would have never spread so fast.
Yeah.
But I was just amazed that my office conversation
Yeah.
was around this because everybody had heard that this has happened,
Yeah.
and it has spread so fast throughout the country
Exactly.
and the world in general.
Yeah. There's also the news factor, and I think I was talking to you about earlier. It's the same experience for me, right? I'm a huge Swiftie, and Taylor Swift had an album coming out. Because of like the effect of social media and how fast content spreads, she was able to put QR codes in different cities, and every QR led you to a different letter, and there were just like thousands
Wow.
of fans just putting together like a sentence she has spelled out in different countries, right? And all because people were making videos of it, scanning the QR, sharing it online, right? So that's the beauty of it, right? How fast information spreads, and all of that took what, like 6 hours
Yeah.
for
now I'm
for
curious
it.
what the sentence said.
The sentence said for a fortnight. It's another Easter egg.
Okay.
Something else.
Yeah. At what point Easter eggs become so common that they can't be called Easter eggs anymore? But yeah,
Yeah.
different debate. Maybe another episode on that in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we kind of established. I think we both are kind of arriving at this consensus that social media is a necessary evil,
Yeah.
right? We haven't explored that evil part of it,
Hmm.
but we definitely agree that social media definitely has a place.
Yeah.
It has made the world definitely more connected.
Hmm.
It has made different communities come together in collaboration on
Yeah.
core values and not be limited by geography or language also.
Exactly,
I would say
yeah.
in one
Hmm.
because one recent feature that really impressed me on Instagram was I was browsing doom scrolling some
Hmm.
short form videos, and I was being pushed Japanese reels for some reason.
Hmm.
And
That's interesting.
I mean, yeah. I think Instagram has this wild algorithm. They try everything.
Yeah.
They see what clicks, and then they will, go ahead and like see what they can feed you more of. I don't know how they do it, what they
Yeah.
read, what data are they collecting, but they started pushing me this.
That explains why most of my feed is like dog videos.
Yeah. And yeah, but coming to the point, yeah. So I actually went to the comment section, and you had these, this vibrant community of Japanese people interacting in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
But they had this translation button on each comment that I can just click.
I actually
Yeah.
really
And
appreciate
I was
that
able to
feature.
follow that
Yeah.
conversation, and the crux of it really struck me that, without knowing the language, without
Yeah.
knowing the community,
You're-
I'm
you're
able to
still able to
appreciate
interact-
the inside jokes of that
Exactly,
community,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that actually is, I feel like it when we say social media has made the world more connected,
Hmm.
I feel like that is a
the
definitely
true
example,
definition,
yeah, like which I can point to and say like it has made me more connected to that culture
yeah.
in general.
I
right.
think that's a very good example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I want to move on to some of the evil part of it, like
Mhm.
why we are calling it necessary evil.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me the first disadvantage that comes to your mind
Mm-hmm.
when you think about social media?
It's addictive.
It's addictive.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
So I think especially with like again short form content, right?
Mhm.
I think the habit of like you can just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling
Mhm.
and get those instant dopamine hits in like 30 seconds. I think that is the addictive part of it, and then also you're bombarding your brain with like so much information at like a single point of time, right? What even
Mhm.
is your opinion anymore?
Yeah, and not just so much information, so much random
Information,
Like
yeah.
you'll be watching a short form video of cricket,
Yeah.
and suddenly you will move on to Bollywood,
Yeah.
and then you will move on to some other thing, and your brain is just like processing all of it. And I think one thing I want to say here is we don't realize is that our brains are by default habit forming,
Yeah.
and whatever we do or not,
Hmm.
it will eventually form a habit.
Exactly.
And I just feel that the UI of short form videos is just so creative. It's just so intuitive, no? Just to just keep pushing on the video.
And because your brain keeps getting that dopamine hit every 30 seconds or 1 minute, the reason it reduces your focus time is basically because humans tend to focus because you're built on like this reward mechanism, right? If you're focusing on something, you're trying to learn something, it's the end of it. Oh, I learned a new skill. That is the thing that gives you the rush. But if you're scrolling so much information at a point and your brain is getting used to getting that dopamine so much quicker, you won't be able to focus on things, right? Because your reward system has like really taken a toll. It has deteriorated.
Yeah, the habit for it is now that it expects that like 45 second 45-second hit.
Yeah.
Right.
You start getting anxious.
Yeah, I totally agree on that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty much sure a lot of social media companies have experts sitting to determine how to get people to scroll more reels.
Yeah.
But do you think it's a responsibility of social media platforms to also limit the amount of doom scrolling you're doing? Or is it the responsibility of the person itself?
I think it's kind of both, right? Obviously, if you're making a business out of it, you want users to stay online, right? But I think you should also at least give people that feature that, hey, you scrolled like 1,500 reels today, maybe time to just stop. You made us enough money. so
do you think government should intervene?
I don't think so. I mean, it's more of the business, and because I think the moment government intervenes, it's also that you reduce the opportunities for companies to innovate and come up with new features. I think that is also an opinion that I have, but mostly it should be on the companies and the users. Is your opinion different?
It is. Yeah. So I let me bring in another perspective into this. So tobacco is a very, very regulated like commodity right now. So companies selling tobacco have to write on the cover that this is injurious to your health.
Yeah.
Do you think we should have such declarations on social media websites that when you open, it should say that, scrolling reels is detrimental to your brain development and it can actually reduce your focus time before you start that cycle?
I mean, this will become a different debate, but that's the thing, right? If you're a chain smoker, do you really care about the warning on the label?
That is actually a good point. Yeah. But now let me bring in another perspective to this. So, do you think that label helps kids from accessing it in the first place? Or someone who has never smoked? So, do you think they can be prevented on entering this?
They can be prevented. That's a good perspective. Yeah.
So, I think we have determined it is very complicated. Right.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So, predatory behavior and all this aside, I think another part that I feel where I feel it is a necessary evil right now is that we have different generations using social media, right? For example, for me, social media became a part of my life when I was in my early teens. I did not have it, or at least it was not at the level which, where you can consider it a major part of your life. When I was a kid, like less than 10 years, right?
Yeah.
It became active around when I was 10 years. But now you have a generation that has Instagram once they're entering like 6-7 years of age, 8 years of age, and I have seen parents even buy them phones, give them access, and of course all these social media companies, they come ahead and say that we have 13 years limit, we don't have underage users, but
it's all on paper.
Yeah, they don't really verify your Aadhaar card, right? Yeah, that what's your birthday. You can go ahead and create an account, you can use a random number, and just get going.
Yeah.
What is your opinion of that? Like, do you think this generation has to be protected, or do you think this generation should be allowed to explore social media as is?
I think so. One good aspect of it is obviously that kids are at least growing up with a bit more confidence, right? Because you have the social media experience and you're connected to your friends, right? But the other aspect of it, and this is me talking from like the same generation where I got access to the internet and social media in my early teens, right? And the thing is, I remember that I did not know what was right or wrong at that point, right? Because you're just a kid, you're just a teenager, right? So a lot of it did take a toll at me, like, oh, it took a toll on my body image because you have this need to be validated, right? Because the more content you see, and if that content is just not great, right? Like, hey, you have to look like this, you have to be like this. If celebrities or public figures are influencing you to be a certain way, you're obviously gonna grow up a little bit insecure and seeking that validation from people around you, right? So that angle of it, I do think kids need to be protected. That is one part of it, that mental health is obviously can take a toll. The other aspect of it is also the security aspect of it, right? You might have cases of, just predatory adult behavior or getting scammed,
Yeah.
getting catfished, right? So those kind of things really need to be, enforced, that if you do have like teenage users, you have to regulate some things.
Yeah. So I am actually very divided on this. I have
Okay.
given it a lot of thought. And the prime part for me is, so another thing that has changed between the social medias of then, which is basically 2010s, and the social media of 2020s, is that we definitely have more walled gardens now. And what I mean by that is that a lot of content that you watch today on social media is heavily moderated.
Yeah.
Some of it is thankless moderators who are like, doing this without any pay, and they're just maintaining this community, removing any sign of filth. And trust me, there's a lot of filth. Like, internet is full of like people trying to troll, right? And a lot of it is also algorithms, right? So like, who try to remove it. But back in 2010s, when I was growing up, this was not the case. Moderation was there, but it was like free for all. You really have to be looking out for yourself on the internet. But what I feel that taught me was a great sense to identify what is legit on the internet and what is not. I really attribute a lot of my identification that I have today about the thought perspective to that experience I had, because I had the chance to learn and identify, fail and learn, right? That's how humans learn. You fail, you learn, and then you improve. I feel like if you give too much of a walled garden, you might end up making a generation vulnerable to more things like phishing attacks or scamming. Getting scammed easily. What is your thought on that?
I do think but then again, I'm a little divided on this. I think if you give kids a walled garden, it's also this thing that they're only exposed to the information that is like built for them. But then again, like, how much protection is too much protection? How precautious can you really be is the question, right? Again, we have arrived at the conclusion that it is complicated.
No, but I definitely feel social media is here to stay.
Yeah, of course.
I think it is not gonna change. It's not gonna go back to the time when there's no social media.
Yeah.
And I think it is a responsibility on the people, not just the companies, the people themselves, to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
Right? Before we raise a generation which is not ready for the internet. They're about to experience.
Yeah.
So this stuff, I think definitely that needs to be figured out.
So, but then I have a question for you, and I know we will segue into Gen AI also. But when you say it's the responsibility of the individual, right? When you have content that you can't differentiate that whether it's fake, real, or scam, do you still think it's the responsibility of an individual, and that content does not need to be moderated? I
mean, what I meant basically, I did not mean it in that way. Of course, that is not like the right way. Like if there can be scams that are good, like anyone can get scammed. Even I can get scammed if there's a scam out there which is sophisticated enough, right, to bypass my defenses.
Yeah.
So I feel you can never be safe from scams in general, right? What I meant really was that people as a collective, individuals need to actually go ahead and figure out, like, either through policies with the government or working with the companies, like talking, like raising reports, raising voice, to figure out a common solution, a common framework that works. That individual responsibility is there.
Yeah, that is understandable.
Yeah. So, yeah, cool. I think I also had one more point here, which basically is that I think in this part, government really needs to step up, right? Primarily because individuals don't act on their own, right? You need government to actually come up with plans or at least policies which can regulate this in a way which we can expose them,
Hmm.
but like not cut them off, because that is also not the right
Not
solution.
the right
Social media is
solution.
here to stay.
Yeah.
And
So basically, you need to come up with policies that protect individuals' rights that every company needs to adhere to, and we obviously have these kind of things in other segments
Mhm.
of like businesses, right? So why
Mhm.
not just bring it to social media as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. So on the same topic though,
Mm.
I think we cannot not talk about social media in the 2020s and not talk about generative AI and what it is
Yeah.
affecting it, right?
Yeah.
So I actually want to segue into that topic from this, because I
Mm.
think it's directly related there about
Mm.
regulating it and everything.
Yeah.
But do you, okay, again, I'm gonna lay it all bare. Do you think Gen AI is impacting how we consume social media?
Yes. Yeah. I
Mhm.
think, again, this also has the good and the bad parts, right? I think one very creative kind of content that I've been seeing ever
Mhm.
since Gen AI came along was that, because I'm a big fan of music, right? Is that
Mhm.
with AI you're able to generate like different kind of mashups from different singers. They're making like American pop singers sing in Hindi. So again, that is like a very fun kind of content to watch. But then there's more of the negative aspect to it, which is like you have all this spread of fake news and deep fakes. I think that is something that is like truly destroying the experience.
Yeah, I think
right?
you
It's
bring
very
a
easy
yeah.
to spread fake news with Gen AI.
Yeah, you bring a good point. I
Yeah.
think it's about what is the intent of using AI,
Yeah.
right, on
Mm.
social media. So if your intent is to make good content that was
Yeah.
not possible before,
Yeah.
like Taylor Swift singing in Hindi,
Channa Mere.
yeah, Taylor Swift singing Channa Mere,
Yeah.
then that is a creative use.
Yeah.
You're not really harming anybody.
Yeah.
But then you see uses of deepfake photos
Hmm.
of like famous
Political
politicians, shaking hands with someone,
Hmm.
that can actually be used to radicalize, right?
Exactly.
And I think one point that really, like, is the main reason for this to succeed is that the generation older than us, especially our parents, they are not aware of what Gen AI is capable of at
Exactly.
all, right?
Yeah.
So,
The only thing I have noticed is that the term Gen AI and AI has penetrated so much
Mhm.
that you will see elders be afraid of it and talk about it.
Mhm.
But I don't think there is enough information going around to actually tell them what's like a fake, to tell the difference between what's fake and what's a real thing.
Mhm.
Right? I think
Yeah.
that is a major concern.
Yeah, let me tell you a story here.
Mm.
Okay, it's not even Gen AI. That's like, I'll tell you how gullible like people can be if they're not
Yeah.
aware of the latest advancements in tech,
Mm.
right? So we have this game called like, some people call it a game, some people call it a simulator.
Mm.
It's Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Mm.
So the recent version that came out, it is very very realistic,
Mm.
but it is still a game, right? So what a good trend that started, not a good trend, a recent trend that started was some creators started creating videos of themselves in the cockpit
Hmm.
and simulating an engine failure and how they're saving the plane.
Oh, I
Okay.
see. Yeah.
So some of them had the right intentions. I know, they're trying to simulate I mean, if you want to shoot a crash failure video, you won't really crash a real plane, right?
Yeah.
So they're simulating an engine failure, they're trying to save it,
Hmm.
and they're trying to take it from there.
Hmm.
But what I saw in the comments of these posts was, I was surprised by the amount of people who were believing that it's a real video.
Yeah.
And I first thought that, they are actually just joking.
Yeah.
But then I realized most of them were serious.
Yeah.
They were not able to figure out that it's a video game
Hmm.
because the graphics were so ultra realistic. And this is not even Gen AI. I mean, they're just generating images
Yeah,
from real data.
Yeah.
I get it, it's super realistic, but that kind of brings me the fear in me that if people don't understand the tech behind
Exactly.
it can get very,
Very
murky very fast.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good anecdote to tell.
Hmm.
It's not even AI. It's just like
Yeah,
software
it's just-
that's confusing people.
And I think that also brings one more point here. So
Hmm.
right now we're talking about Gen AI affecting social media, but new tech will always affect social media, right?
Hmm.
Social media is one of the first places where you get new tech
Yeah.
introduced,
Hmm.
right? So I think, again, we come to the same point. Social
Yeah.
media, you have to be aware of what is out there
Yeah.
so that you don't fall into the traps
Hmm.
that can come with any tech that comes to social media first, right? Anything to add there?
Yeah, I think you make a good point. Yeah, I think people really need to, maybe they read up more or maybe watch more
Mhm.
content about what Gen AI can do. Over time, you'll be able to see signs, what's real, what's not, and just
Mhm.
be aware of like the content you're consuming. View everything, like take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, we're
So
gonna
much
come to that.
content out
I want
there.
to dig your brain on how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just start with that. Okay.
Okay.
So when I think, as we mentioned that new tech, you have to be aware of new tech to actually decide how you can like consume social media, what to be aware of, what to be not aware of.
Yeah.
So I actually want to divide people into three groups, and since we are almost of similar age, one is 27, one is 25,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to divide them into three groups. One is less than 20, okay, 20 years right now.
Mm-hmm.
Second group is 20 to 40 years old,
Mm-hmm.
okay. We can also make it 45, and then the 45 years and above.
Hmm.
Okay, so these are the three groups I want to divide people on, and from there, I want to just give specific advice. What do you think each generation can do to be aware of more tech
Hmm.
to actually counter social media scams and what is going on?
I
Everything.
see.
So, which one do you want to start with?
I think you can start with one.
Okay, shoot me a generation.
I would say start with the kids under 20.
Okay, under 20 and kids is they're quite mature at 20, but yeah. I think at under 20, I always feel like once you're growing with tech, you're definitely savvy in tech,
Hmm.
right? So the only major advice I'll give is to be a skeptic
Hmm.
for everything. If it is too good to be true, it's not true.
Yeah.
Live by that principle.
Hmm.
If you can follow that, and I think that is a general advice to all age groups,
All
but
age groups.
specifically to for this is enough. Like less
Yeah.
than 20, this is enough.
Yeah.
You will anyways get your tech news and everything because you're able to understand trends,
Hmm.
how it is going. You will be able to explore on your own.
Yeah.
But less than 20, you just need to figure out one thing,
Hmm.
that you just need to be skeptic.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. Yeah.
Anything else to add for them?
I think skepticism is one, and then I think this is obviously about being safe and everything. But I would also say don't get addicted. You have a lot of brain cells to use in your life.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point
Yeah.
because at the developing age of your brain,
Yeah.
you should definitely not build habits that are detrimental because
Detrimental.
they can stay for a longer time
Exactly.
with you, right?
Yeah.
At least with at our age group when brain has reached full development till like 20 to 45,
Hmm.
25 to 45 and
Yeah.
above 45, we've struggled to form habits in the first place. So but for you it's easy. Definitely make sure that you
Yeah,
pay more
yeah.
attention to your habits,
Habits.
and gentle.
Yeah.
Let me shoot you the next one.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you want to give to our age group for being more prudent in tech and everything?
Yeah, I think being skeptic is obviously an advice. I think that's like under the umbrella, right, for all age groups. Being skeptic is one thing. I think the second one is that if you're not that savvy in tech and if you're not too aware of like the trends and stuff, obviously read up from good sources. Maybe try reading tech journals or watch the launches companies put out, like what the new tech is doing. I think those are the kind of things that will help you get on board, like to explore the power of a software. And yeah, over time I think you'll be able to realize, and the same thing that you said earlier, that if something is too good to be true, it probably isn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, take everything, have a keen eye for all the news, and also like only click on like really reliable sources.
Yeah, I think that's our general advice too. Yeah, just
Yeah.
don't click on anything suspicious.
Don't
That's the
click on
first thing.
anything suspicious.
Yeah.
What about you? What's the
Yeah.
advice you
So
give?
for this age group, I think since we have grown at a part where we didn't have social media and internet at our early years, we are already skeptic. I think that is already built in for us.
Yeah.
Right, so that is something that I feel is not something you're missing. If you're missing, of course, add it. I think for this age group, the main thing is we get stuck on one thing because we've been used to it a lot compared to the generation younger than us,
Yeah.
right? So I have seen, like, personally with me also, I do not explore enough social medias, okay? So I have been stuck on the same old stuff, which I've been using. And as we said, social media is a necessary evil.
Yeah.
You get information, you're catching up to everything. So sometimes it's necessary to explore more, and use more responsibly because it will make you more aware. So let go of that habit of sticking to one thing. Because that is very, very, I'm pretty much sure I do it. I don't know if you do it or not, but most probably you also do it.
I also do it.
Yeah. And from there, explore more so that
Yeah.
you're just more aware.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good advice to
Yeah.
give. What would you give it to? What advice would you give to people who are 45 and older?
I was gonna ask you that.
Beat you to it.
Yeah. I think for 45-year and older, it's a bit more complicated. Okay, so as I said, I think for the age groups I mentioned before, there was one was not skeptic enough. We can ask them to be skeptic. One was not exploring enough. We can ask them to explore. In this case, both of them are lacking, right? And if you're aware in this age group, then great, you're already on your way, right? But we're talking about the majority here, right? It's because they got social media when they were already in their 20s and 30s, right? So at that point, it's very hard to explore, and given how fast social media and tech in general grew, it becomes very hard to explore and catch up. In that case, my first and foremost advice is to find, if you can, find people who can explain tech to you in layman words. That is your biggest help. But I agree that might not be everybody might not be able to find that. And in that case, you might want to find that community online. Right? You if you're on social media, you're already communicating with people. Follow people who, do talk about tech in a responsible way. There are a lot of people out there. We can even link some in the description if needed. Follow those people, follow their advice, read from them, get the knowledge from them, and take it ahead. What about you?
I think I would still like to say be skeptic, but in this case, people don't really know what to be skeptic about, right? So I think one general thing is that not everything on the internet is true. Right, so like you said, I think finding those communities, really digging your research, googling things later on, like what you consumed was true or not. I think those kind of things are like really necessary, right? Because you really have to learn a bit. So yeah, I think for everything, I guess, get a second opinion if you're gonna do something.
I think second opinion works very well because you are able to, second opinion is such an easy way to confirm whether this person is telling the truth or not. So yes, I think second opinion is a good point there. I totally agree. Anything else to add in general?
Do not doom scroll before bed.
Yeah, that for sure. Yeah, I think scrolling without intent is definitely something you should not do. If you should definitely have a time in mind, like I'm going to do it for 15 minutes. And that's it.
I think so. That's the thing, right? Build healthy habits around social media. It's an evil. It's here to stay. There are apps available that can lock you out of apps, monitor your screen time. I've been averaging up pretty bad on my screen time, so just those kind of habits can help.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to close with one last question, and this is just a personal question. This is not something philosophical or deep. Which is your favorite social media right now, where you spend the most time on, and why?
I think it has been Reddit for the most part, just because like I have pretty varied interests and there are like communities there, and then they also have like really nice funny dog Reddits. So Reddits where if I just need like a giggle or a happy hit, I can just go there. Like it's basically because I think I get the freedom of choice there, that I can only go and consume the kind of content that I wanna consume. So I think that's the freedom that I like, and that's why I use Reddit more. What about you?
It's the same, and I think the reason is primarily because I find it to be the only remnant of the kind of social media I used to like back in my teen years, which was basically the open internet. Right now I feel like a lot of social media have fallen into this walled garden concept where you're just not able to explore on your own. And I know Reddit also has a lot of moderation. I mean, the reason Reddit is even remotely not 4chan is because of moderation, right? Because if everything is allowed to stay, I don't think Reddit will be that great anymore. So big shout out to moderators there,
exactly.
I guess. Right?
People
like,
who
for
spend
running this
dedicated time
thankless
there.
job, but definitely making good content and making people like us to participate in them and consume from them.
Yeah, shout out to the Reddit moderators.
Yeah, I think Reddit also had an IPO recently. I don't know how it went, but hopefully it went
Good
well.
follow up after this episode.
Yeah. All right, I think that wraps it up.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna say the general things: like, share, subscribe.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, like, share, subscribe, and watch out for the next episode.